With the right agricultural management, Syria could become another California. That's a quote from a writer named James Blackovitz. It was published in the New York Times back on March 4th, 1990, almost 21 years to the day before a brutal civil war began to rip this country apart. Why even mention such a tragically inaccurate quote? For starters, it helps to understand the bygone impressions of places that have since become war-torn shadows of their former selves. Syria didn't always look like this. Tourists flocked shores, flowered gardens, and of course the wines. Grapes from Syrian vineyards for years delivered Cabernets and Merlots to Michelin-starred restaurants in cities like London and New York. Those who are fleeing places like Syria have a history and culture that isn't all about the bombs and bullets, even though these are the images to which the rest of us have grown accustomed.
I never saw a gun in my life. Guns in Syria was like not allowed. Quite easy life.
That's Sami, a 27-year-old Syrian refugee now living in Germany, remembering his days in Aleppo when it was still a vacation spot before the war.
After that we start to get used to that. So war, bullets everywhere. Everything was okay. We need to live, so you need to survive.
The Syrian army has since consolidated control of Sami's old home, Aleppo, by the way, where my grandmother's actually from too, clearing militants from the surrounding countryside. It's part of a government-led effort to retake neighboring Idlib, the last remaining rebel-held territory in Syria. President Assad isn't doing it alone. For years now, his country has been a battleground for regional powers, and once again, Iranian-backed militias and Russian air power are pitching in, much to the irritation of another power, Turkey, sharing a border with Idlib and with its own militias in the area, which Russian fighter jets have been targeting. You got all that? If not, at the least, remember this. Moscow, Tehran, Damascus, and Ankara all have their own priorities in Syria. They fight it out, and alliances shift. Think of it like an episode of Survivor, with rather deadly consequences. Who stays on the island is for another show, but today, my focus is on those who've been forced to leave. Those like Sami are a part of 5 million Syrians who've now fanned out across Egypt, Jordan, Turkey, Lebanon, and into Europe in an effort to escape the violence.
Our situation made us to realize, okay, there's not going to be any good life in Aleppo anymore. It's really hard, and we cannot handle it anymore. So we decided it's time to go.
As for his destination, Europe, it's changing. Even though the sheer numbers of new asylum seekers have been dropping, the issue of refugees has changed the political math. And in countries like Germany, Sweden, and France, traditional centrist parties are now scrambling to defend or discard their once open arms approach. And across the Atlantic in the United States, Trump policy is also all about restricting newcomers. This year, the president capped refugee admissions to their lowest level since 1980. That doesn't mean there's not as many refugees. Actually, it's the opposite. Last year, more than 70 million people were displaced by war, persecution, and climate change. That's the highest number ever recorded. In Idlib alone, the United Nations now estimates some 900,000 are on the move in the dead of winter as fighting escalates. It's the largest displacement of civilians since the war began. In other words, the politics may change, but the millions of people getting forced into unfamiliar cultures full of people who may not want them there, those numbers are increasing.